Good morning, everyone. It's morning where I am, so hopefully it is, you're enjoying your day or you're having a good day so far wherever you're joining us from. My name's Meg. I am part of Power to Fly's virtual hosting team, and I am so excited to be here with you all today, as well as Rutuja from Log Me In. Now, before we jump into the questions, I just want to highlight real quick a couple of the housekeeping items. So that way, if you haven't joined a webinar like this with us before, you know how today's going to go. So first things first is that we really want to encourage you all to participate. So please feel free to drop your questions into the questions field of your GoToWebinar toolbar. You can also chat with everyone in the chat field, but that questions field is where I'll be keeping my eyes on so that we can, if you guys have stuff you want to know, we can pull questions from there and pose them to Rutuja before the session ends today. Like I did say, this session is being recorded, so everyone that registered for today's chat will get an email, usually in a couple days, that will have a link to where you can rewatch this recording on our website. Now, if you are, if you are completely blown away by something that Rutuja says today and you cannot wait to get that rewatch link, no worries. You can always head over to our YouTube channel and check out the recording there. It should be there usually within about 5 to 15 minutes of the end of the session. You might want to give it like maybe an extra 10 just to be sure, but it'll be there, and so you can always go there and share that link with people if you'd like. Like I said, please feel free to write in the chat. You can always DM me if you would like to ask a question, but keep yourself anonymous. That's totally fine. And last but not least, I highly encourage you to keep up with us on social. We have a ton of social media platforms. We are at Power to Fly on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And we're so excited to have you, kind of check out those social channels, stay up to date on what's going on with our community and with our events, and hopefully just keep growing your network and sharing the love and sharing the knowledge about Power to Fly. So with today's focus on Log Me In, obviously I want to highlight the fact that Log Me In is hiring. So I'm going to share a link with you all in the chat thread here in just a moment, and this is going to be where you can go on Power to Fly's website to check out Log Me In's company page. Now, what you can do when you're here, like you can see on your screen, you can check out some of their company info, so like more information about the group, what some of the perks might be of the jobs, that kind of thing. You can check out events to see past events that they have collaborated on with us, as well as future events like today's session, our virtual job fairs, our mega summits, all that kind of stuff. Then you can also click on Open Jobs. Now, clicking on Open Jobs is going to show you all of the roles that Log Me In has posted with Power to Fly. But as we'll get into later in today's session, there's also a couple other places you can check on Log Me In's own websites to look for open roles as well. So the one thing I recommend is that if you are interested in Log Me In, whether or not you're actively job seeking, when you go to this page, there's going to be a big pink follow button at the upper right-hand corner of the page. You're going to want to click that because it's going to do two things for you. It is going to keep you on Log Me In's radar, even if you have not yet filled out an application with them, but it's also going to keep them on your radar. So it's going to let you know when they post new roles. So it's a really good way to make sure that you stay up to date on what they're doing, but you don't feel like you have to keep circling back to job boards and researching and that kind of thing. So definitely check that out and take advantage of that feature if you would like. Next, I'm really excited to introduce you to our speaker. So Rutuja is an Agile and OKR coach with a wide range of experience in coaching multiple Agile teams. With over 13 years of experience in the software industry, along with 8 years in an Agile environment and over 6 years in various leadership roles, Rutuja brings in multiple perspectives to the table when it comes to leading and coaching teams. She's very familiar with and possesses good hands-on experience in the various frameworks and methodologies under the Agile umbrella, like Scrum, Kanban, and a lot of acronyms that I'm going to mispronounce, so my bad, y'all. And Rutuja possesses extensive experience in conducting face-to-face and virtual training on Agile for teams across continents. As an Agile and OKR coach, she strives to bring in clarity and focus to teams and promote the right mindset and culture within the organization. Her motto in life is to bring out the best in individuals as well as teams. So welcome, Rutuja. We're so happy to have you today. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our group before we keep going?
Thank you, Megan. I'm super excited to be here. And like I said, I'm so eager to, share my learnings with you in this next 1 hour. So yeah, really looking forward.
Excellent. All right. So before we get jumped into the questions today, I just want to highlight for everybody some of the principal themes for today's conversation. Now, I find it important to go over these mostly so that y'all will have a good idea, especially if you maybe are joining us, a while after you registered for this session initially. That way, you'll have an idea of what we're going to try and cover today. Now, we defined these goals and these themes both after having the conversations with Rutuja prior to today's session, as well as through taking a look at the questions that y'all submitted in advance of today's session when you registered. Now, we're going to try and cover these, but the one thing I want to flag for y'all is that if you have questions and you want to make sure that they get asked and that you get answers, there's a couple key ways you can do that. You can either, like I said, throw them into the group chat, you can DM me, or last but not least, I want you to make sure that you recognize that if you have a question that maybe occurs to you during today's conversation, or a question that you submitted but you don't think we're going to have time to get to, please, please, please feel free to submit that question. Flag it for us, raise the question, and that way I can make sure that we go over that before time is up today. So please feel like you can help drive today's conversation into whatever direction you would like to learn from with Rutuja. Now, we are going to cover the idea of how to define your purpose-driven goals. We're going to talk a little bit about how you can find whatever your passion is in your work, as well as how to foster a healthy work environment, which I think we all recognize is easier said than done. So let's see here. Let me stop showing my screen, and then we will jump into the questions for today's session. So first up here, we wanted to talk a little bit about goal setting. So Rutuja, a lot of people had questions about how to goal set, especially if you don't really have any experience with it, or maybe you're not really good at it. So can you lay out some of the basics for this goal setting idea?
Absolutely, Megan. So if you're an early adopter of goals, you've never worked with goals in your life. So there are a couple of tips which I can share with you. The first one is start small. So it's very, very important that you choose 2 to 3 meaningful areas where you want to define your goals. A lot of time people do this mistake. I mean, I also did this, that when I got introduced to some of the frameworks of goal setting, like OKR is one of my favorites. We'll come to that later on. It's called objectives and key result. And when I found this framework, I learned about this framework, and I was so overwhelmed that, hey, come on, now I know 10 areas where I want to improve, where I want to learn, and now let me define goals. And I must admit, I terribly failed. So it's very important that you really focus on start small. In OKR philosophy or in goal philosophy, they say less is more. So find out 2 to 3 focus areas where you want to start and define your goals there. Second thing, take take some of the advice or inspiration from these goal setting frameworks out there. Uh, One of my favorite, I mentioned, it is OKR, objectives and key result. You can Google it and you can find a lot of stuff around that. There's another goal setting framework which is called key performance indicator. You can really choose good KPIs, like good indicators which tell you whether you're getting closer to your goals or no. And there are some smart goals techniques as well. So I think find out one of this framework methodology and then align your a process of goal setting according to one of this framework. And the last is ensure that you're tracking your goal. So a lot of times, we are very, very fast in defining goals, but then the challenge lies in tracking and checking them, having clarity and visibility of your goals. So let's say if you define a goal for a quarter, we have 3 goals defined for the quarter. Ensure that you have measurable key results or initiatives attached to your goals, which you can frequently check in, like let's say once every week. It'll give you visibility that, hey, am I getting closer to my goal, or do I have to tweak something? Because goals are not written on stone, right? So you can always change your goals if you think, hey, this is not something which is getting me there. So I think it's very, very important you start small, choose 2 to 3 most meaningful things you want to focus on. Look for a good framework, OKR, KPIs, SMART goals, any technique you can use. And the last, ensure that you measure it, because you can only manage what you measure. So it's very, very important that you measure it in order to manage it later. So yeah, simple as that.
I absolutely love that. And I love that you pointed out, kind of start small, because I feel like that's something that a lot of people fall prey to when you come up with this idea, or you get introduced to a new idea of like how you can manage things or how you can track things. It's really, really tempting to just throw everything at it, right? You want to track all of the things at once because it's such a great system and it's going to be wonderful. So yeah, I think that's a really good thing to highlight there. Of the three frameworks that you mentioned, OKRs, KPIs, and SMART, is there one that's your favorite, or does it really just depend on what you're trying to track?
Mhm. So, like I mentioned, I have been an OKR coach and practitioner for a few years now. OKR, basically, if you look at the full form, it's objectives and key results. So, objectives are what you want to achieve, and key results are the benchmarks you monitor in order to get there. So, every objective is coupled with a key result. So, you cannot just have objective, because it's like objective is the simple, significant statement of where you want to go, what you want to achieve. But then the most important thing is how, right? So key result is something which will tell you these actionable steps you need to take in order to get there. So I think OKR, I'm a huge fan, because I've been working with this for last 3 years, and I have done 100 plus transformations of different teams, and teams really find it quite engaging and motivating working with OKRs, because you absolutely see the transparency and visibility OKR offers in terms of your goals. And they say that OKRs have a lot of intention. So it's not just goals, it's KPIs with souls. So it's like you see the meaning that, hey, if this is my goal, why is this my goal? Where's the bigger vision? Where's the purpose? So I think it's quite meaningful when you start aligning your goals to the bigger vision and purpose. And I think this is where this journey of meaningful, purpose driven goals starts. So, yeah, I think 1 hour would be less. If I start talking about OKRs, I can just go on for hours and hours. So please check it out. It's very, very nice philosophy and framework, and I'm sure, yeah, most of you can really be benefited with this.
Awesome. Thank you so much for detailing that. I do just want to address real quick. I do see a question in the questions panel about how there's usually a chat area and that person doesn't see it this morning. If you're able to find questions, if you keep looking further down on your on your GoToWebinar toolbar, there will be a little like file that says chat. So you should be able to click on that and that'll pop it out and down for you. All right, so let's move to our next question. This person had asked, do you have any specific advice for those early in their careers and trying to take things to the next level? It's very hard to set meaningful goals when you're still learning the ropes.
All right, quite interesting. So can you repeat? Somebody who is early in their career and want to really take up more challenges? Or
Yeah, it sounds like somebody that's early in their career might not really know the industry or know the field that well, but wants to kind of set themselves up for success. So is it possible to start goal setting when you really don't know a ton about the field, so you maybe don't know exactly where you want to go? Or is it something that you should start setting goals even before you really know what your absolute end game should be?
Yeah, great question. So I think, first of all, it doesn't matter what phase of your career you're in. So either you are a beginner, you're a fresher, you're quite experienced professional. Even my 9-year-old kid, she's working with OKRs. She writes her own OKRs about she want to get better in English, and she want to get better in mathematics or reading. So anybody can work with OKRs or goals for that matter, right? Now, for goal driven approach, what's most important is do not jump directly into the goals. So one mistake people do is, hey, we want to work with goals, now let's start writing goals. Whenever you want to adapt to this framework or this approach of goal setting, you have to start with why. Now, what do you mean by start with why? First of all, you have to understand what is the overall purpose of the organization. Why do we exist? Why do we exist as an organization? Why do we exist as a department, as a product, as a team? What do we want to achieve? What problem do we want to solve? So everything starts with that purpose, that high level, meta level reason for your being. Then comes your vision, that what impact do you want to create with what you exist? And then comes your mission, that, hey, how do you create that impact? Once you understand this, and once you have a very great understanding at the start of your career, I'm talking about when you really start your work with an organization, and in your defined role, once you understand this, then you can really start picking up 2 3 things which matter the most for you as a person, as an individual, as a team member to achieve there. And this is where your goal setting journey starts. So alignment is very important. It should not turn up that, imagine a company with 1,000 employees. Everyone is working with goals, but then they all set their goals in a very siloed way. And then, you end up having vector, a mathematical equation of vector goals, which is completely running in different directions. So no matter how great throughput output you give at the end of the day, if it is not aligned, you won't be able to fulfill your overall vision or purpose of the organization. So it's very important you start with the why. If you're not able to understand the purpose and vision, it is a leadership role here. I mean, the leaders needs to communicate it, very clearly again and again, or over communicate. If you're unsure about what are you working on and why are you working on, ask your manager, ask leadership, because to set goal, the first thing is, do you know the purpose and vision? And I think based on this, you have to set your goals. Yeah.
No, I think you make a really good point. Having that awareness to try and look around yourself and see, like, what maybe most people are going towards. I think that's a really good way to sort of gauge, at least from the start, what goals are you setting? Are there areas that you're not thinking of because it's not, something that you have familiarity with? I absolutely love that. Now, I also had follow-up questions about mentorship, but I know we delve a little bit deeper into that later. Do you want to touch on it now?
Mhm. Yeah, maybe not too much in detail, because again, it's a very vast area. It's a very big topic. But a lot of organizations now who are turning agile. So, agile is another approach. So organizations want to be more agile, more transparent, with flat hierarchies. And carrot is getting more important than stick, and that's the reason, if you are having 100% manager role, I'm not sure how sustainable it is with respect to your team. So you need to be a T-shaped leader. Now, when we talk about these skills, they are more soft skills. How empathetic you are, how much emotionally intelligent you are, how well you can understand and care for your employees, for their growth. So all these things really display like a role of a mentor. And a mentor or a coach in an organization cannot be judgmental. You have a role of a counselor. And I think these kind of roles enable people and teams to climb up in their career ladders. And talking to a manager may not give me that kind of psychological safety which talking to a coach or a mentor, because manager, so there are great managers. I do not have problems with that. The thing is, the term manager comes with this stereotype that, hey, somebody with my appraisal sheet in his or her hand, and somebody who is constantly judging me on my failures. And the moment you turn this role into mentor or coach, it all of a sudden becomes, hey, somebody who is enabling me, somebody who is who is aware of my strengths and weaknesses, and accept me how I am, and help me to win with my abilities and my skills. So I think this is a very beautiful role, and more organizations are turning towards mentoring models and coaching models. And yeah, I think that's the way to go. So yeah.
And thank you for kind of delineating that, because I feel like you're right. There are a lot of people that feel that don't really see the distinction between a manager or a coach or a mentor. And you're right. It's really good to have that open communication and kind of transparency with your manager. But yeah, it can also be really hard to not only just like make yourself vulnerable with that person, especially when they are in an evaluation, kind of position for you. But you're right. It could be really helpful to have someone outside of your work ecosystem to be able to say, like, hey, I'm not really sure about this, or did I make the right call on this project that I did? Without having to, kind of ask those questions of someone who maybe you want to present more of a confident, unflappable, face to. So yeah, I think that's a great way to go on that. Okay, so we do have a question from the chat here. Robin has asked, when we start out with a new objective, we know what we want to achieve, but sometimes it's not quite clear how to get there. Based on that situation, how would you recommend defining key results?
All right. So first of all, when you define an objective, you start talking about the benchmark or things which would create an impact on that objective. Let's say your objective is, let me take an example of customer satisfaction, right? So you want to really delight your customers using your new features or new products, right? Now, how do you measure them? So are you talking about number of features you are delivering, or you're talking about net retention ratio? So you have to look for something which would be the ultimate outcome of things you would be doing. So it may happen that number of features, oh, we are constantly, I'll tell you a pizza example. So let's say I order a pizza, and the pizza place have this OKR that, hey, the customer should get pizza in time, and the pizza should be warm enough, and within 20 minutes the pizza should be delivered, and you should charge $10 for the pizza, etc. So all the KPIs are output KPIs. I get the pizza at my home, and the moment I open and I start eating it, I have an awful experience because the quality is too bad. They did not use fresh ingredients, and they did not listen to me. I said I'm allergic to broccoli, they still put broccoli in the pizza, etc., etc. I somehow managed to consume it, but then for me, I would never order pizza from that place, right? And what's happening in the kitchen? Oh, we delivered the pizza in exactly 20 minutes. Awesome, KPI fulfilled. Oh, we got 10 euro as a revenue generated by selling this pizza. Awesome, the checklist is done. Oh, we delivered the right pizza. So if you see all the key results, what you have defined there, the output key result are checked, and still the objective is not getting fulfilled, or let's say your organization is going down the drain. So it's very important that you talk about qualitative indicators, that, hey, is the customer happy? Maybe make a call to the customer and talk about how was your experience with the pizza. So I think this is more important. So whenever you're working with objectives, it's very important that you mix or you apply a combination of qualitative and quantitative indicators here. So you have to talk about output key results and outcome key result. And I always encourage team, hey, talk about value over output, throughput, because what matters is either you made an impact or you didn't make an impact, right? So it's very, very important that you have very, very outcome oriented key result, and not only counting number of bugs fixed and number of features delivered and number of, this is not really a great approach to work with goals.
No, I love that. That's and thank you for breaking that down, because you're right. I've never heard it split into qualitative and quantitative, but you're right. It's completely, they're both really, really necessary.
Yeah.
If you're not putting out the right numbers, that's not good. But like you said, if that pizza is not what the person ordered, or if it's not, not acceptable, say it's like frozen in the middle or something, that you're right. That's completely, that changes the game entirely. Now, just as a personal curiosity, is it possible to, or I guess how easy is it to get overburdened with too many KPIs or too many, points that you're trying to track? Is that something to be worried about, or is it more likely that, especially if you're starting out, you're going to forget things that you would like to track later, as opposed to tracking too many things?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, you have to, less is more. That's one standard philosophy of working with goals. You have to ensure that you are talking about the things which matter the most meaningful things. So we are not talking about throughput here. We're talking about value. Value can be generated by focusing on only 2 goals in a quarter. So when we define these 2 goals, and the KPIs also needs to be less. I mean, you cannot have one objective or one goal defined with 10 KPIs. No, it's not working. You have to ensure that, hey, the key results or the KPIs, the indicators, are also ranging between 2 to 3 and not more. It may happen that the size of the goal is too big for these 2 to 3 KPIs. So what you would do, you would break that goal into, let's say if it's an annual goal, it's a yearly goal, something you really need to work throughout the year to fulfill that goal. You break that goal into 4 quarters, like sub goals, and below each sub goal, you will have key results or KPIs or initiatives for that particular quarter. Then let's say 1 quarter is done. You already see some good progress, some success. Hey, we are 20% closer to the goal. You move to the next quarter. Hey, we are 45% closer to the goal. You move to the next quarter. So this is how you also work with breaking the goals. You don't have to do a big bang approach here, like one goal for the whole year. Yeah. So I think break the goals down, have minimalistic key results which is realistic to fulfill. So I think you need to be ambitious when you're working with goals. Come on, don't make like how to say uh, a goal cannot be a to-do list, right? So it has to be ambitious, it has to be roof shooting, moon shooting, but at the same time it needs to be realistic and pragmatic. So that balance. And another thing, sorry taking more time on this question, but another thing they say that goal building goal muscle is like going to gym. You go day one, you do 1 hour of gym, you come back home, you don't see a difference. You go day two, you come back home, you don't see a difference. Probably after 3 4 months, when you're religiously going and practicing, you come back and you see, hey, I see a visible difference. Exactly the same approaches with goals. So when you work with goal, it's like training that goal muscle. It takes time, so you won't get it perfect in day one. So done is better than perfect. You have to do it, and with every iteration you get better at it.
I absolutely love that. Thank you. Okay, so that actually leads us really nicely into our next question. This person wants to know, once we start defining our goals, how can we be sure that we've chosen the right ones? And with what frequency should we check? So what do you recommend for this question?
Mhm. Again, a great question. uh, so like I mentioned, when you are defining goals as a team, as an individual, do not right away start writing your goals that, hey, 1 2 3 4, these are my goals. No, you're not doing that. First thing you have to do is forget goals, start with why. I joined a company. Do I understand why this company exists? So again and again, maybe it's duplication of my sentences, but I think it's most relevant that to start with that why, understand the purpose of the organization. If you have little bit of ambiguity around why do we exist, I think it's most important, talk to the leaders, approach your manager and understand why we exist, why this product is there for, what problem do we want to solve. This purpose will lead you to vision, that, hey, what impact do we want to create with our products, what we are is it just we are doing because we are competition obsessed, or is it we are doing because we really want to make someone's life easy. So it's very important to also understand the vision. Based on the vision, you have mission. This is all happening on the strategic layer, but even if you're not a part of strategy, you need to understand what is the strategy, right? Once you understand that, then the goals are derived out of that in your department. So you have to look up to your department that, oh, these are the goals derived in the department based on this strategy. And then the team level goals are defined. And then the individual goals are defined. So everything has to be in one thread. Everything has to be beautifully aligned. If there's no alignment, no matter how great, 120%, 200%, I have seen teams who achieve their goals by 200% sometimes. But at the end of the day, they found, oh, it didn't add value anywhere. So most important is alignment, understanding the vision, and are my goals aligned to those vision? They are the pure meaningful goal. And also, once your goals are ready, please have a sanity check. Talk to your leaders, talk to your managers that, hey, this is our team, this is what we focus on, and these are our goals. Do you think, do you validate this? Can you confirm them? Have these kind of conversations and feedbacks. It's very important. Once you have that, then I think 90% chances are you have derived good goals, meaningful goals. And then once you start checking the goals, you will realize, if your goal is not moving ahead, you will realize that, hey, there's some blocker, there's something which is stopping us. Maybe let's look back. What's the problem here? What is something which is stopping us? So I think, yeah, this is this plan, do, check, act cycle you have to run in every iteration. So yeah.
I absolutely love that. You're right. If you're not treating your goals as aspirational versus inspirational are pretty, I think that's pretty important. In prior situations when I've set a goal and I got way too lofty, I realized, like, it's not that I will not achieve this goal, it's that the amount of steps and stuff that I would need to try and get there, it's too many. So
Yeah.
if we set it a little bit lower, but still like something that we might not reach, that for me at least is something that keeps me kind of motivated and still
Yeah.
engaged at trying to reach this goal, as opposed to getting kind of self-defeated of,
Yeah.
well, I'm never going to get here, so why did I set the benchmark here when really this is a little more realistic.
Yeah, absolutely. And another beautiful thing, Megan, if I can add, I think goals help you to fail fast. I mean, imagine if I set something for 1 year down the line and I break those things into a monthly plan, like, this is my monthly goal or quarterly goal, very early in the time, I know that, hey, this I failed here and this is not the right goal. So rather than checking it at the end of the year, you're already creating an opportunity, an ecosystem for yourself to fail fast, and which is so important. So I think, yeah, that's also another opportunity.
I always love the idea of failing fast. And I feel like it was really confusing the first like couple times I heard it. But then once you get it broken down, I'm like, no. If you're going to fail, do it quickly. Don't waste a ton of your time on it. Find out quickly that that's not the option that you want to pursue, or that there's a better way to do it. And that way you can learn from it and pivot on the fly, as opposed to, like you said, like spending a ton of time trying to chase something that ends up being either not reachable or not really applicable to the goal. It's a little bit more distraction. So yeah, that's really, I think you're right. It's very important to kind of keep tracking that and realize that goals are important, and you don't want to feel too wishy-washy about them, but you can't really set them in stone. Yeah, I love that. All right, so most of what we've been talking about so far, and just FYI to people who are attending, we have 30 minutes left in the chat. So if you have questions and you want to make sure they get answered, please feel free to put them into that questions bank. So we've been talking mostly about setting personal goals as opposed to, kind of branching that out to a wider team. This person had wanted to know how they can set the purpose-driven goals to make sure that everyone on the team feels passionate about them. What of your advice changes when we go from just personal goals to team goals?
All right. So a lot of times I have seen when organizations decide that, hey, we are doing goal adoption, we want to work with goals now from this year on. And one of the biggest mistake, which I learned from my past, that organizations do is they always introduce top-down driven goals. So it's like, my manager defines what are my goals going to be, and her manager or his manager define what are his or her goals going to be. And I think it's like a very, very autocratic, top down management by objectives kind of approach, which doesn't work in real world. Because when we are talking about goals and we are talking about reaching meaningful, success driven things here, that I think we really need to change the approach. So what OKR suggests is, instead of doing top down goals, you should focus on top down and bottom up collaboration. And I must highlight this here in Lock Me In. All our goals, what we define in teams and individuals and departments, it's a combination of top down and bottom up. So our manager, she sit together with the team and she brings her proposal to the team, and then she asks everyone, hey guys, this is my proposal, and what do you think about it? And we all are given this opportunity to bring our proposal, and it's kind of a brainstorming that, hey, how do we kind of come to a common ground, that what are the things which matter the most to us as a team. So it's a collaboration. It cannot be waterfallish, top down driven goals if you want engagement in people. So when I know that, hey, I'm heard, my manager is asking for my opinion and what matter the most according to me in the team, it suddenly generates a good vibe of engagement, and I'm onboarded and ownership kind of a things. And we see it a lot of teams who are working with OKRs and goals in the teams where I help them to acquire this. They are very happy and they take ownership and they take pride. Why? Because they were a part of defining their goals. So like I mentioned a couple of minutes back, carrot is most important. The stick is not relevant here. So how we can achieve this? Engage your people in defining the goals, right? Even if, of course, as a manager, you bring the proposal according to what you think the strategy is and what you think should be the right goals for the team. But at the same time, you're giving the opportunity to the team to converse with you and make it like a collaborative process. So that's very, very important. And apart from that, the ownership needs to be kind of shared. So it's not like the manager of the team is owning and responsible and accountable for all the goals. No, if it's a team, the team is responsible. So if we fail as a team. If we succeed as a team, right? So it doesn't matter if you have 3 goals defined in a team and one goal is like outstandingly achieved 200% and other goals are like 20% achieved. So it's not like you are defining superstars and alphas in your team that, hey, this goal was this guy was responsible for this goal, and look at him, so he's like the man of the match. No, we are not doing that, right? So it's like the whole team here. So the effort is shared, the responsibility, accountability, ownership, everything lies with the team. And I think then that's the beauty of it. You involve people, they're onboarded, they are collaborating, and they take pride in their own goals. And I think you mentioned about wider teams. Now, wider teams, what I understand here with this terminology is teams who are more support teams, who are not directly customer facing, right? But maybe they are infrastructure teams, or they are networking team, or security team, support team. Again, talk to them about the vision, and talk to them about what would happen if they are not there. Imagine if you do not have security team for your product. I mean, of course, you have developers who are building feature after feature, and you do not have security team. So you have to really give them that feeling that, hey, how important your role is in this entire jigsaw puzzle. So this is very important. Now, again, it's the way how the leadership, or how the leader of that team communicates to the team that you're a part of a bigger vision and a bigger map. So this is very important, that you connect even other wider teams into this goal setting, and they need to align with other teams. So maybe they have to do a collaborative goal setting with other teams who they are enabling or catering to. So there are different formats how it is done. And yeah, but it's important to take people along.
No, I mean, I can't agree strongly enough with a lot of like everything that you're saying. And I think the places that I've worked in the past that were not very good at this seemed to have that they seem to be very reticent to accept the idea of either we win as a team and we fail as a team, or like you said, kind of identifying like those rock stars or maybe the weak links within the group. And I feel like depending on the situation, some of those have been, kind of some of those frameworks have been clung to with the idea that if you are winning and losing as a team, but maybe there's only like one person that's really kind of at the heart of where things are going wrong, that somehow that's going to like provide that person cover, or, it's not going to be a situation you can deal with. But I mean, it sounds like what you're talking about and what I've seen, especially at Power to Fly, is yes, you win and you lose together, but that doesn't mean that you don't investigate the larger team, or to look at like kind of those smaller microcosms of like, okay, if this team's goal wasn't met, why? Is it, a problem? Is it like a breakdown in communication because this team was doing so well that they stopped talking to the other teams? Is it, something where one person really needs to kind of get back on the team goal? Or is it a situation where this one person might be seemingly failing, but it really reflects a larger disconnect within the team, and it's not just tied to that person? Is that accurate?
Absolutely, very well said. Yes, absolutely. It's like a team sport. It's like sport teams. I mean, you cannot really have individual superstars, and I think the superhero culture somehow, it's not really good for the culture. So I think even with working with goals, you really, I mean, I usually suggest as an OKR coach, have goals till the team level. Do not go too deeper into individual goal setting. So a hierarchy up to the team level goal is really good to go, and I think this really works. So yeah.
I love that. And at least in my experience, it makes it a lot easier to say, like, hey, my team's not making the goal, and I think there's a breakdown here. It makes people a lot more transparent to bring up not only what is working, but also what's not working, because they don't feel like they're going to be personally penalized for identifying a snag or identifying a bottleneck.
Yes,
Right.
Totally.
So we've talked a lot about, kind of how ideally we want these things to work, but I think we all realize that most workplaces are not the ideal workplace. It's not, no place is perfect because there's people involved, and we are not perfect. So when it comes to like kind of setting these goals, especially for yourself, if you're doing so within an environment that isn't really conducive to growth, is there any way to really fight that? Or is it a situation that you just kind of need to leave before you can focus on your own personal goals? How do you feel about this?
Great point again. So one thing I learned, or great question. One thing I learned from past is to differentiate between the things which I'm good at, and to differentiate the things which I'm not good at. To differentiate the things where I can influence, and to differentiate between the things where I cannot influence. So I think in such a thing where you do not have control over the ecosystem or overall organizational culture, be the change you want to see in the world. So you start things at your end, what you can influence. So maybe you define goals around yourself, around your team, where you have influence. Talk to your team, talk to your manager, and maybe your team can be a real role model here in terms of really sharing the success story, and can be a great use case that, hey, we did this differently and this is how we achieved our success. So I think start with the smaller circle, be that role model, and create your own goals where you have influence. Do not get into the goals where you can't really do anything. I mean, avoid situations and goals where you have to be dependent on the ecosystem or other parameters. I usually often tell people that, hey, when you're writing goals, ensure that, hey, am I the only one, or let's say my team is the only one who can influence this? If you have dependency with that team and that manager and this, think about that, because it may be a demotivator for you, right? So start with what you can influence. Bring this discussion to your manager that, hey, we think that the environment is not really flourishing and not very helpful for our progress. What can we do about it? Maybe making these things transparent and visible may help to change things. But if you think overall organization, you feel that's not really great culture to work with, then maybe you can plan the phase out, that how do you really move to a place which can be even more favorable and allow your career progression. So yeah, but I would strongly suggest that do not let things which you are not good at block you from doing things which you're good at. And a lot of times I had hard time figuring this out, because I always focused on things, why this is not working, why I'm not able to do it, and I completely lost track of things I'm good at. And I think it's so important that focus on things. If I'm a fish, I can swim, I cannot climb a tree, and I need to tell this to myself. So I think it's very important to differentiate between such things.
I absolutely love that. I'm telling you, you've got absolute like great, kind of mind blowing. Like, oh God, how did I not think about it that way? Like, I think I'm at 3 right now, and there's always at least one per chat for me. So you are just crushing this. Thank you. Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit. There have been a lot of people during the pandemic that have really been reassessing, some of their personal goals, their professional goals, how satisfied they are with their career or with their job. Have you ever had experienced a situation where you kind of like lost that passion for your role, either within the pandemic or outside of it?
Uh, So I wouldn't say specific to pandemic, but I think working as a coach, it happens to you at least 1 2 times in a week, especially when you come across teams. I mean, I'm not talking about my current situation, but let's say last couple of years, when you're working as a coach, when you're working as a mentor to different teams, sometimes the situation comes that, hey, you constantly get resistance, and you constantly get this feeling that, hey, you're not required in this team, right? And it's a very thankless job, right? So at the end of the day, because you're not really generating any profit directly, so you're like enabler, right? So a lot of times you come across these situations, and then you feel like, oh, it's so exhausting. Why am I fighting against these windmills? And I should just quit. I should just change my job. This happens. We are humans, right? We are not robots. So I think just went out. It's okay. It's okay to not feel okay, right? So there are these situations which keep coming every now and then. So first of all, watch them. What all the triggers, why is this happening, what are those triggers? Maybe if there are some people who are constantly causing the stress to you, or some specific situations, or some specific I don't know, environment, so try and avoid them a little bit as far as you can, right? And try to stay in this positive circle where you can make your work more impactful. um, but then anytime you feel like this, the next morning is again the sun comes back, even if it's cloudy, so it's like you have to get up and you have to tell yourself, come on, it's another day, and I have to go back, and I have to go back and give my best. So you're not the only one. We all go through this. This is this motion of work. It happens in at workplace, it happens with family, sometimes it happens with yourself, that why am I here, why do I have this life, what is the reason of my being? this is so natural and normal. So everyone go through this. So just take it easy. Don't be so harsh on yourself. And like I said, I love this book. My manager also recommended it last week to me. It's called, I think, I Am Okay, You Are Okay. It's a great book. It's a recommendation from my manager. And she said, do read, it's a good book. So I can just say it's okay not to be okay. And talking about pandemic kind of a situation, I think we've all learned that change is the only constant, right? So what we can do to face or give back on such a volatile situation is like be more adaptive. So practice being more adaptive and resilient. And I think this is something you have to constantly practice day and night. Start small, but slowly you have to develop these habits. So yeah, but we are all in the same boat. Yeah.
No, I completely agree. It's definitely a situation where, especially for me, I've had to kind of reevaluate and see, are the things that I'm not loving about, the situation right now, are they because of the pandemic? Are they because of, like you said, changes that everything changes? And so are these changes that are likely to change again as we, kind of hopefully move forward into the vaccine era as opposed to just the quarantine era of the pandemic? Or are these, situations that were present in that microcosm before the pandemic, and so maybe it's a situation that I'm not trying to think of, I can't foresee things changing with it, but just because that I can't see, something that's an external force that's gonna come in and help change that for me, doesn't mean it's something I can't change for myself.
Yes,
So yeah,
absolutely.
all right. So you mentioned a book that you do recommend, and we had a lot of questions about people asking about books or free resources to help figure out what your passions might be. Now, I absolutely love the your previous book suggestion, but is there anything else that you want to suggest or recommend to people who are kind of trying to identify these passions within themselves?
Mhm. So especially for goals, so if you're early adopters of goal setting process, and as an organization you want to try out, hey, how can we be more goal driven? I definitely can recommend a book called Measure What Matters by John Deere. Now this book is all about the journey with OKRs. So there are different use cases that how OKRs, which is objectives and key results, this goal setting framework, it is used by different organization, be it a NGO, to individual, to superstars, to big organizations. I mean, Google is really evangelizing this because Google started their journey with OKR way back. And I think they really made huge success with this philosophy. So yes, Measure What Matters by John Deere. I definitely recommend this if you want to start your performance to purpose and goal setting journey. And there's a very beautiful concept called ikigai, which is a Japanese concept. Ikigai in Japanese means reason for being. So again, they have a website. Go through that. There are a lot of content about finding your passion. So they have given this different kind of circles around what are you good at, and where your passion lie, and what do you get paid for, what the world needs from you. And you can really draw these different circles and find out that inner circle where actually your ikigai is. And yeah, you can definitely try that out. So yeah, these are two things I can just share quickly.
I love that. And in case anybody's not sure how to start researching that, Ikigai is spelled Ikigai. So use that to kind of jump off your research journey. All right, so we also had a lot of questions along this next line. This person had asked, how can I tell if the burnout that I'm feeling means I just need a break, or if it's really time to move on and start looking for a new job? Now, obviously, this is a very personal and very kind of situational dependent answer, but how would you address it?
All right. So first of all, my mom taught me this. So whenever as a kid, you're working on something and you're not getting there, and patience is always low. So at least in my case, when I was growing up, so as a kid, so patience is something you don't want to talk about patience. It's like you want it right now, and as soon as possible. So a lot of times the situation used to come where you felt like, oh, I don't want to do it, and it's fatigue and it's burnout and it's not my thing. Take a pause. So you don't have to give up the moment you start feeling these kind of emotions. take a pause. It's okay to take a pause, sit back, relax, and find out. Again, I'm a big believer of finding out triggers. There are a lot of things in our life, what happens which makes us this emotional turmoil, which cause emotional turmoil. May have some certain triggers. So find out these triggers. Is it really the burnout, or are these some triggers which cause these kind of feelings in you? So maybe identify that and work on that. That how can you phase them out? How can you really phase them out? Another thing I learned hard way: burnout used to happen to me when I try to manage time. So from my university to working professional, I heard one thing from people: manage your time, manage your time, manage your time. And then lately I realized I have 24 hours in a day, and that's a constant thing. It's not going to change. So I can never ever manage my time, because I only have 24 hours a day. What I can manage is my task. Manage my task list is more important than manage my time. So what I would say: if you feel burnout, please have a vigilance on what kind of work or what kind of task list you have. How big is your backlog? Is it mapping? I mean, the estimation of your backlog, your work item, is it really mapping with your capacity? If you have 24 hours a day, and if you are taking task on your plate which need 40 hours, it's inevitable. You're gonna have burnout. It's natural. So it's very important that play with your task. And how can you work with your task list? If you get 100 tickets, 100 work items on your platter, again, we already learned about it. Go back to what mattered the most. What is the most important thing we want to achieve in this quarter? Please evaluate or prioritize your task list based on this. There's another good framework which I use. It's called feasibility to efficiency matrix. You can really draw two lines. So x-axis could be feasibility, y-axis could be efficiency. So you have high efficiency, high feasibility; low efficiency, low feasibility; high efficiency, low feasibility. These combination, 4 quadrants. Place your items there. Whatever is falling in low feasibility, low efficiency, just drop them. And you should focus on what is high feasible and high efficient. Manage your work, manage your backlog, when manage your task list. Do not manage your time. And that's the way you can get out of burnout. But if it's still, after trying all this, if it's still consistent, then maybe seek for a help, talk to your manager, go for some medical advice, and yeah, you will find it out.
I love that. And you're absolutely right. There's certain things that it seems like kind of how do I pick between what's there? And I approach it the same way. Can I try this? And if it doesn't work, then I still have these other options. Or is it worth, kind of going to the most extreme option first? And most of the time it's not. So yeah, I absolutely love that. Okay, so one last question I'm going to try and get to before we round out today's chat, because this time always goes so quickly. This person had asked, how can I develop a healthy work philosophy and rhythms with my coworkers? Does this have to be important to everyone, or can I implement these changes on my own?
All right. So I think it has to happen two directional. I mean, you can bring this discussion to the team, uh, and the team needs to be onboarded on this, and you have to collaboratively work on this. So I think you can talk to your team around, hey, how can we improve our team hygiene? How can we have our team morale go high? How can we have better working conditions for us? How can we be more connected? How can we have more emotionally intelligent team? And how can we be more self-caring? So a lot of things which you can talk to your team, which may eventually help you to be a great team, a productive team. So bring all these ideas to your team, and talk to your team, maybe in a retrospective or somewhere. What do they think about it? Do they really think that, hey, this is something important and we really need to talk about these things and improve? If yes, go for it. Maybe you can really define again goals or OKRs around it, that hey, team health could be one of your OKR. That how do we improve team hygiene and team health, right? So there are different goals which you can work on together. But if you think you got this proposal to the team and team is completely like storming and they're saying no, we don't think we need, then I would say just take a pause. So find out a right moment, and wait for the right opportunity, and maybe bring it back. So don't make it like a how to say it, don't go alone. It's like it's a team thing. If you want to have all these hygiene factors in the team, you definitely need to onboard your team here. And I think you can have meaningful goals. I know a lot of teams who dedicatedly define 1 to 2 goals every half a year around team hygiene and how can we grow as a team and team health. It's a very important issue, right? So yeah, so that's how you should approach it.
I love that. It reminds me of that proverb. I think it's an African proverb. If you want to go far, go together. If you want to go fast, go by yourself. And I think you're right. This is a situation where sometimes fast seems the better option, but
Yeah.
far is going to be 9 times out of 10 the
Yes.
option that you want to take. So
Yes.
yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah,
Okay, so that rounds us out to the ends of our questions today, but I am going to, let's see, we're going to share some screen here with everybody. Let me make sure I've got picked the right application. There we go. Okay, so we what you're seeing in front of you is a list of questions that we asked Rutuja before today's session. So let's talk a little bit more about Log Me In. The word that you picked to describe the company culture is people first. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
So I joined LogMeIn recently. It's like almost 6 months I'm here, and I'm not exaggerating, but I think one of the most people-first companies I have come across. We have self-care days, so which is one feature I have never experienced anywhere. Self-care day is like every first Friday of the month. Every employee is having a paid time off. And this is called self-care day because this is intended to be, hey, take care of yourself, focus on your well-being, do what you like to do. And I think this is just an additional 12 days a year, which is like, wow, cherry on the top, so and for organizations of this size, I mean, LogMeIn is really a big enterprise. This really is a courageous decision to come up with such great initiatives, and I feel so grateful about it. It's really thinking about your people, and that's why I said, oh, this is people first, and if you keep your people first, you're gonna get customer happy. So I think that's really a good thing here. Talking about the second one, my favorite part working here, immense opportunity to aim high and continuously learn and grow. And I mean it, because since I'm here, I'm constantly working on different topics, different initiatives. We started different things here. So I think it's not like, hey, you are in this role and you're stuck in that role. You go beyond hierarchies and roles here, and you can really make a difference. And I think the leadership is so supportive. It's not like we are super tightly hierarchical driven organization. So yeah, and managers are great in their support. So that's something I observed, and that's my favorite part to work here. And some tips for someone who is interviewing, I think, be authentic, be mindful. I think most of you people will tell you the same. I don't have anything special to share, but I think in my experience, this is what bring true value. So if you're authentic, if you're real, and you bring your true self, it's yeah, that's the way to win the world. So I would say, yeah, that's something I can share.
I absolutely love that. The people first idea, especially when it comes to the self-care days, that is huge. Is that something that's just a product of the pandemic and quarantine, or is that something that was in place before?
No, it started with pandemic, but I think it's almost a long time since I'm there. It's there, and I think they're still continuing with that. And not only this, we have a lot of great initiatives, like we have a lot of fun channels. We have a lot of different activities, physical fitness, mindfulness. Yeah, so every week there's something new, and I think this helps to create that work-life balance. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's kind of everything in concert that works together to form, a really well-rounded org. So that's super great. The screen that I'm showing right now, y'all, is for a lot of the open roles at Log Me In. Now, on Powerfly's website alone, they have 184 jobs currently posted. I'm looking at the live page right now. I've thrown a lot of links into the chat if you are interested in any of these roles that have been highlighted. The other thing I want to highlight for you is, if you are interested in Log Me In and want to look at even more roles, you can always check out their company page. But I really recommend, kind of from a selfish place, that if you do apply to Log Me In via anything other than Powerfly's website, please let them know you came through us. It doesn't affect your salary. We don't take commissions off of that kind of stuff. It's not going to hurt you in any way. It's just how we prove value to Log Me In and kind of keep highlighting that, the Power to Fly community is where you find the best people. So I want to encourage you all, especially if what Rutuja has said today really resonates with you and you want to learn more about Log Me In's company culture. Please feel free to apply. Check them out on Power to Fly's website. Check out their LinkedIn page, all this kind of stuff. Rutuja, you've been absolutely wonderful. Huge thank you to you. This has been a wonderful way to spend my afternoon. Is there anything you'd like to say to the group before we close out today?
I had a very quick, maybe it'll take, I know I'm over time, maybe last 1 minute, but I would like to narrate a very beautiful poem what Dr. Martin Luther King presented in his, what is your life's blueprint, his greatest speech. So maybe this would be a good closing note. I can begin. If it falls your lot to be a street sweeper, sweep street like Michelangelo painted pictures. Sweep streets like Beethoven composed music. Sweep streets like Leontine Price sings before the Metropolitan Opera. Sweep streets like Shakespeare wrote poetry. Sweep streets so well that all the host of heaven and earth will have to pause and say, here lived a great street sweeper who swept his job well. If you can't be a pine at the top of the hill, be a shrub in the valley. Be the best little shrub on the side of the hill. Be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a highway, just be a trail. If you can't be the sun, be a star. For it is not by the size that you win or fail, be the best of whatever you are. I think that's the
I
way to
love that. Oh, I absolutely love that. It gives me goosebumps every time I hear it. So thank you so much for sharing that. I just want to say huge thank you to Log Me In for loaning us Rutuja for the morning. And I want to say a huge thank you to our attendees. Y'all submitted amazing questions ahead of today's session. And I'm so happy to have seen so many people join us for today's chat. So I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your Monday, that it sets you up for a great week to go, and that hopefully we'll see you join us on many more Power to Fly events in the future. So that's all for me today. But big thank you to all of you. Have a safe and happy week, and we'll catch you back here soon. Bye.
Thank you, Megan. Bye.